First Kings 18. So people have been asking me all day, Pastor James, not like, what's God doing and what's God speaking? All they ask me is, Pastor James, why don't you like cats? Last story. There is actually one more for you tomorrow, but you always ask, like a lot of people are like, what's the deal with cats? So right after my puppies died, I was a little bit, older. I remember it like it was 22 years ago. Because it was. And so 22 years ago, I went to I got my first yellow belt. I felt accomplished. Because when you get a yellow belt, you know what that means? You can beat up all the white belts, Also, as a colored man, I was like, finally, no white belt. They want a white belt. So then I became more Asian with the yellow belt. It's like, yes! Because karate's like an Asian thing. And I remember doing it and I thought I could beat people up, and I loved karate. Unless like those duck walks, then I quit karate. But while I was in karate, something happened. I came home, I felt so accomplished. I was the man, sorry. Less intimidating. I was the man, I was ready to go. And I come home like, Grandma, I won my belt. And she's like, your cat ran away. And I was like, Mom, why? I get out of my house, I look for this cat for like 3 hours. Cat's not there.
Wow.
So I'm like dragging my feet home. There's a plastic bag on my lawn, so I pick it up, throw it away, start walking. And I was just like, Mom, why'd you put your fur coat in this trash bag?
Oh no. Oh no.
And I opened it, because I was like, wait a second. Who puts a fur coat in a trash bag? So this is the story apparently what happened. The man in the black Jeep ran over my cat, but was nice enough to put it in the garbage bag and throw it in my grass. I guess he was just like, I guess you darted from this house, so enjoy yourself. That's how my first cat died. Oh, it continues. I remember later, my cat ends up having puppies. And I was like, Mom, not that cat. It's not like, back from the dead. Like, no, it's not that. Like, I have another cat, right? So I'm like mad. So this cat has kittens.
Oh, okay.
A different cat, years later. I'm like 24. It was me at 24. So this cat has 6 kittens. This other cat leaves. And I was like, Mom, don't let the dogs in the house. She's like, okay. So guess what, the dogs get out. I open the door, I'm enjoying my time. I walk into a room with 6 dead kittens. All their necks broken. I was like, this is my life. Put all the kittens in a box, buried it outside. And by this time, I've had so many dead animals that I don't want to keep digging it. So I was like, you're gonna fit in this hole. I'm so mad. Now that cat had a pink collar. And I took my sister to Safeway like 2 weeks later. I was like, hey Jackie. She's like, what? I was like, that cat, that dead cat that got hit by a car. She goes, yeah. I was like, doesn't that look like our cat? She's like, oh my gosh. And I was like, no. When I come here trying to preach to you, and Satan makes someone wear this shirt with all these kittens all over it, staring at me like, why'd you let us die? Oh, look at me with their blue eyes. Why'd you let us die? No, it wasn't me. It's not my fault. You're dead. Oh my God. So, I'm sorry. Is that you're new? You weren't here for the milk story. That's why you're shocked. The milk story is the worst, right, kids? The milk story is the worst. Yeah. So I remember Esther asked me, so, why don't you like cats? And I told her the story. She's like, That's it. You know, she really didn't know what to say. Like, what are you gonna say to a guy who has that many dead cats? My family needs prayer. They got another cat. I remember when I first saw it in my house, I was like, how did this thing get inside? And my mom was like, we bought it. I was like, are you serious? You know how many dead cats we have? Alright. So anyways, there's this dude named Elijah, right? And Elijah is a prophet. He's one of the big prophets at this time in the Old Testament. And at this point in time, there's a man named Ahab. Like Captain Ahab, if you ever read Moby Dick. You haven't. So anyways, Ahab is the king and the ruler. He's kind of a sinful man. Doesn't care about God, doesn't care about anything. And at this point in time, there are like no prophets left. There's only Elijah. And Elijah shows up. And he knows that Ahab wants him dead. And he shows up and he's sitting there and like his friend sees him, Obadiah, and he's just like, what are you doing here? You know this dude wants you dead. And Elijah just sits there, he's like, go tell Ahab, I'm here. And Obadiah's like, no, like I'm not telling him. I know what God does with you. When I tell him you're here, he's gonna just spiritually take you away somewhere else. Because that was Elijah's life, crazy stuff happened to him. He's like, he's gonna take you away. And Elijah was like, tell him I'm here. And he's like, oh, you promise you're not gonna fly away. Could you imagine like a man so holy, where you're just kind of like if I'm eating with Brian one day, I'm like, Brian, could you please not multiply the free bread today and hand it out to people? I just came to hang out with you. I can't control it, James. Come on, and everyone's like crying. I was like, you do this every time we go eat. You know, why can't you multiply my bank account? He's like, that's not how it works, James. You know, could you imagine a man so holy that this guy's worried that he's gonna fly away? I wish people thought I was that holy. I wish people thought I was that awesome. Like we're all eating lunch together, and kids are afraid to let me drink their Powerade because it might turn into blood or wine. You know? People are afraid when I sweep the room because the dust could turn into gnats. You know? That's how holy I am. What's all with this? Wait, my bad. Lord, what are you doing? You know? Like, I was that holy. I wish. Could you imagine hanging out with Moses? He's washing his hands like, oh, blood! And you're like, oh, Moses was here, you know? I wish I was that holy. But Elijah was that man. He followed God. He loved God. And he like stands up and Ahab's like, you, troublemaker of Israel. He's like, psh, you're the troublemaker. He's like, how dare you? I'm king. He's like, you know what? This is what I'm gonna propose to you. You're gonna meet me at this place, right? At this, you know? I want you to bring all the like prophets of Baal. Meet me. Christian showdown. Boom, drops the mic. And the guy's just like, oh, we're gonna bring it all right. All 450 of us. So they go. And this is the battle that results. Standing in this corner, the man of God, Elijah, most likely around 5'8", lots of hair, wearing a weird like turban type thing. That's who he is. On the other side, 450 worshipers of Baal, standing in the corner just waiting like, yo, we're gonna throw it down. He's like, okay, this is what I'm gonna ask you to do. I'm gonna ask you to grab a sacrifice. He's like, what do you want me to grab? He goes, grab a bull, cut it to pieces, make an altar for it, and we're gonna see which God answers who first. I grabbed this ramen because it's spicy flavored. I'm sure there's beef in this somewhere. I'm gonna have faith that there's beef in this. So there's this thing. They want to sacrifice to it. He's like, okay. And it says in the Bible that all 450 people of Baal get ready to throw down. And they start yelling. People yell for me. Be my Baal worshippers. Just for this moment, not every day, right? Scream. Oh, I thought we were close. You didn't scream for me. No, again. Yeah. There we go. And this happens for like 6 hours from morning to noon. Alright? From morning, they're just walking around this thing, burning calories. Like, oh my gosh, like, burn. Seriously, dog, burn. I got places to go. And they don't leave. And yeah, I'm wrapping around this thing. I noticed that, yeah. And they keep screaming and screaming and screaming and nothing happens. And Justin Noah's gonna come up here. He's gonna grab this mic for me. Just follow me. And they keep screaming to my face. And they keep screaming and nothing is happening. Nothing is happening. You have to understand. What are you doing? And so nothing's happening. So you know what they did back in the day? They would take knives and cut themselves.
Oh.
Oh my gosh. Oh yeah.
Your lack of faith in me is so low. Pastor, nope, someone's gonna die. So anyway, they would take these knives, right? And they would take it and they would start cutting themselves. They would cut themselves. And they would cut themselves. And they would cut themselves constantly. And they're like, oh snap. And they knew that wasn't enough, so they would grab more. And they would cut themselves. They would cut themselves and cut themselves all day, bleeding, waiting to be heard. This isn't enough blood. Where's my blood? Like, grab me that. They would cut themselves constantly, over and over, wailing to the Lord. Their Lord, their false God. They're just like, man, you are not answering me. I need you to understand that this is very important. So he cut himself, and it says to the point where blood just gushed out. It just gushed places. It was crazy. Don't eat this with eggs. Calm down.
Take off that arm. Take off.
Yeah, a little even. Little even. Some of that napkins don't that's my man. And so they're bleeding. And they cut themselves and they're bleeding. And I need you to see this. Because whenever you hear this story, they're just kind of like, oh yeah, they cut themselves. But no, they were bleeding a lot. And it's at this moment that I want to pause in this story, because usually I just make you keep going. Trying to make up for so much stuff. They see you spiritually bleeding. And you need to get this, because this is the pain I feel as a pastor when I see my kids bleeding spiritually. When they look down on themselves, when they're like, oh, I'm not good enough, oh, all these things. When they're full of fear, I see this, because I see their heart, and God gives me a glimpse of their brokenness. And it says that that was the tradition of the time, that people would come, and that they would do this in order for God to hear them. And it's true, if you've ever taken a class, they would do this back in the day. Especially if you read the Scarlet Letter, when people sinned, they would whip themselves, hurt themselves, thinking that maybe that will get God to listen. And we do it sometimes with our friends. We do it sometimes like with our family. I read your Facebooks. I know I cry for help when I see it. Nobody loves me. You're like, ah. My favorite Facebook post was this. My parents didn't get me anything for Christmas. And unfortunately, his mom was his Facebook friend. And she replied, you're telling your friends that I didn't get you anything for Christmas? I got you all these things. Fine, we're going to return them and take them to the store. Look at you trying to get attention for no reason. Boom, I was like, you just got burnt by your mom. It's like, embarrassment. But it's true, don't we do that? Like we sit there and we go like, we have no friends. Nobody cares about me. I gotta tell you, you notice when you say that, you always say that to the people that care about you. Hey, best friend. Hey, nobody cares about me, man. You're like, what am I doing here then if I don't care about you? And I'm here to tell you, like, cherish the people that love you. Treat them well. Treat them well. I get it. They get to hear a lot of like your crap and all that stuff. I get that. But cherish them. Because, you know, eventually, when you speak that into somebody, you learn that that's their identity. Eventually they're going to feel, oh, maybe you really think I don't care about you. Maybe I'm just another one of those people to you. That's what breaks a lot of relationships. So here we are, cut up and bleeding. They're dying. And I love this part of the Bible, where I want you to turn with me now to 1 Kings 18:27. And at noon, after they had cut themselves, after they were bleeding, Elijah mocked them, saying, "Cry aloud, for he is God." Either he is musing, contemplating the moment you're doing, he's looking at you guys very confused, or he's relieving himself. Basically, it's like he's taking a dump. Just keep yelling. He'll be back. Or he's on a journey. Paul's going somewhere. He'll be back eventually. Or perhaps he's asleep and must be awakened. This is where sarcasm existed. Sarcasm existed for a long time. He's like calling out all these people and he's laughing. And you can tell this is you gotta feel pretty good. Elijah's sitting there just y'all are crazy. What's wrong with you? And they're just sitting there we've been doing this for 6 hours. And you know what? But they still kind of have hope because they're looking at him what can you do? What can you pull off? And he's like, you know what? This is crazy because y'all about to kill yourselves. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna grab. Where's my ramen at?
Right there.
Thank you. I'm a little covered in ketchup. I'm discombobulated. He grabs this. Justin, come back. He grabs this, and he's like, all right, you know what? We're going to talk to my God. And it's not enough that we're going to just do it the way you were doing it. We're going to do something else. So what he does is he goes, get 4 giant jars. And so he grabs 4 giant jars. And so he's like, pour it over the sacrifice. He's like, all right. You know what? That's not enough. I need some more. You know what? That's not enough. I said 4. You know what? Still not enough. 1 more. 1 more. Oh, it's wet. Super wet. I feel wet, you feel wet, we're all in this story. And it's, oh yeah, I did this to myself. What's that slime? That's me, okay, I did it. He does all this stuff, he pours it all over. And so you feel, and the reason I'm doing this because you're kind of feeling what that crowd felt. What's this dude doing? This dude's insane. And he's like, all right, Lord. And he understands something, that this isn't about him. That this isn't about what he does or what he offers. That this is about who God is. And as simply as he does, Elijah gets on his hands and knees. He's like, Lord, show these people. Because all of Israel's there to watch this battle. These people who forgot about you. These people who don't remember you. These people who left for comfort for a king that doesn't follow your ways. Lord, remind them who you are. And so he brings fire. And the Holy Spirit. I'm going to the Holy Spirit.
Oh my God.
And he's like, Lord, light a flame. Bam! And he's like, no, bam! You know what? Just one more for good measure. Bam!
Oh my God.
And the Lord lights it on fire. It says that the fire was so powerful that all the liquid was gone. Boom, one blast. Not slowly, evaporation on the first hit. Boom, the sacrifice was burnt up. And everyone looked like you are looking. And everyone got quiet. And Elijah's just like, yeah. Aw, snap. And then you could tell the 450 ball people are like, oh, what are we gonna do? And you could tell the soul, you're like, you gotta get out of here. He's like, wait! People! Grab them! Kill them! Right? So they grab them all, and it says they grab this knife, which their weapons kind of look like this. Yeah, weapons are falling everywhere. Yeah. They grab these knives, they put their heads down, they're like, you don't get to leave! Waka chow! Chop a bunch of heads off. Harvesting. felt bad for the women that had a cut. Not that y'all ain't as strong. It's nasty when you ain't strong. You're like, oh man. Really tough logo, you can't cut through it. But this is what's happening. You gotta be as much as you can be in the Bible, be in the Bible. You know? Like brothers, like, you know, y'all, seniors, one cut. Little kids, you be there for like hours. Can I stop? Elijah, I'm sorry. Like, you know, it's like, no, cut them off! Yeah. 450 dead people. You know, they're weird back then too, and it was okay to do that as a Christian back then, because you know Elijah was like, yeah! I won! Puts the head down. And then he's not even done. He's like, Ahab, it's gonna rain today. He's like, it hasn't rained in a long time, Elijah. You're the reason it doesn't rain. He's like, you pray for it to stop raining. He's like, the Lord says it's gonna rain today. And so he goes, and he sends his servant to go look. The Lord says it's gonna rain, so he runs. Nothing happens. He runs again, and again, and again, and again, and again. The seventh time he comes back, I love this picture. He's like, there's like a cloud the size of a small fist rising up. As if the Lord's like, oh yeah, to the heavens I won't release the rain. Sure you can. Boom! And it says after this, a great cloud comes. Boom! All the water falls. As they're getting ready to go to Jezreel, Ahab's in his cart, and it says at this point that he grabs his pants and he outruns the cart. He's just like, man, before you sailing boat, there was Elijah. And he runs and outruns it. That's the story. But the thing is, you always gotta read the Bible continuously. I think that's kind of like some of our weaknesses where we like go to conferences and stuff and retreats. We read a segment and we just never go back to it. But the message is here. You know, the next day, immediately, Ahab's telling, you know, Jezebel this story. And she goes, you tell Elijah that if I don't kill him and do what he did yesterday, that I will suffer the same fate. And you know what Elijah does? He runs away scared. He runs away scared. He goes through all this stuff. And he runs away scared the next day. And the Lord meets him, sends an angel of the Lord to talk to him. He's like, Elijah. He's like, what do you need? He's like, Lord, just kill me now. You know? Like, you think that's a phrase we made up? No, it was a long thing. He's like, just kill me now, Lord. You know, like, I've been jealous for you, I've been doing all this stuff for you, but now this woman wants me dead, which is so crazy because, like, Ahab wanted him dead, but he was just, like, so weak at this point. And I'm also here to kind of remind you to pause the story here because sometimes we are the most weak after celebration. You know, the worst day for me is June 23rd. It is the worst day. My birthday is on June 22nd. Because everyone for one moment in time says they love you. But a day after, there is no love. Day after, there is no text. Maybe the late people, they're like, happy belated birthday, but those people don't matter. I'm just telling you now. You tell me happy belated birthday, I'm like, oh, okay. Delete it from Facebook. You know, like, I don't know. That's how I am. But the day after, it's like nothing matters. You have a party, you get together, you have fun, but no one's kind of like, oh hey man, so glad you're alive. You wait for the next birthday, and no one cares about you the next day. It's after big celebrations that we feel the weakest because it doesn't continue. We keep expecting more, but it doesn't. And you guys kind of know, you ever have like big church events? They're awesome, you're like, yeah, fellowship. But you come back, and this is the hardest thing for me as a pastor, that Sunday after retreat. You all on fire? I said, you all on fire? We gave you 5 days. You don't get the 6th. And I thought about that moment. And we have to look at Elijah, because this is kind of like what we have to warn ourselves against. And it's gonna happen, even like moments like this. Because we keep thinking, if God were to do this in our lives, we would never be unhappy again. I'm a pastor, I've seen some really cool stuff, right? I've seen some amazing things, I've seen people get delivered. But let me tell you, that sad moment still hits me later. where I'm just kind of like, oh Lord, are you still doing things through me? And he's kind of just like, dude, brother, you know, my son, yeah, we are doing stuff, and I'm setting you up for new stuff. But you see, I get prideful as a Christian. I don't want to wait again. I just want to just always do, and always have cool stuff happen. But God's always like, no, there's a process, and there's something I need you to learn. And now we pull back into the story, and the angel's like, no, right? What's your problem? He's like, you really want to know my problem? You really want to know my problem? I've been following God like all my life. I've been doing all this stuff. Ain't no one else left. There was just me, the only prophet left here. And you want to know what, Lord? Now this person wants to kill me, and I'm just a little sick of it. Just sick of it. And he's like, all right, I'm going to take you somewhere. You're going to eat. You know what I love about eating? You know what I love about fellowship? You know what I love about eating with people? Even though I hate spaghetti, but I ate with you guys today. There's something about sharing life, literally. I like watching a movie. It's cute, it's fun. But there's nothing, like, you have to eat to live. There's something about doing something where you have to live together. I love doing that with people. Because at least for that moment, I know for a fact that you want to keep living. And I love that. I love the fellowship. I love when we eat together because it's such a beautiful thing to watch you eat. Kind of. Some of you guys eat like... you know, you don't even chew. You're like, whatever makes it in. You know, I don't know. That's kind of gross, some of you. Kind of gross. But I love eating. Like today, I got to hang out with the younger kids, and this girl said the funniest thing in my life. I was so blessed by you. I got to spend the first day with Poe. Because he said, he's like, I was like, what's your name? He's like, Poe. I thought he said Poe. I got to spend it with the older kids. He like asked me the weirdest question. He's like, so I think he's going to be like really spiritual, right? He's just like, hey man, can I ask you something? I was like, yeah, my first day. Spiritual question. He's like, what would you rather lose? One of your arms, one of your legs? I was like, okay. I thought you were going to ask me, okay, that's cool. Definitely one of my arms. He's like, okay. Would you rather lose both your arms or both your legs? Both of my legs. I'd rather lose both my legs. And it was fun talking to them, you know? Meeting Sonny with a bright shirt. He loves to swim. I try to meet Brian. He still doesn't talk to me, but he said 2 sentences to me today. I'm like, yeah. Happy. You're a handsome man. Be careful. You know? I don't even know your real name, Handsome Jack. I just call you Handsome Jack. Do you know why I call you Handsome Jack?
Yeah, I don't care.
There's this game, I'm gonna tell you. Borderlands. You're not evil like him, I just like that name, Handsome Jack. And then I meet each other, one of you, like, you know, doing volleyball, doing stuff, like, it's fun. But there's something about eating where you, like, have to kind of, like, fellowship. Because in sports, you don't have to say anything. You can just pass the ball, be like, hey. But eating, you have to kind of talk. Because there's nothing more weird than eating with people you don't like. I eat with the pastors. Very quickly. Whenever my senior pastor, let's go eat, I'm like, yeah. How was your day? Oh, it was good. Done. I walk away. I don't want to like stay there and keep talking. And that's what. But there's something beautiful like when you want to spend time with people, but then sometimes we abuse it, right? Because you know Asian people, we like talk too much, and you guys loiter like no one's business. You know, I can still meet at Brown's like, hey, I'm gonna eat at 8. That means he's gonna eat for an hour and a half. Sit in the restaurant for 30 minutes. Chill in the parking lot for an hour. The deepest conversations happen in parking lots, kids. If you want to have deep conversations, meet this man in a parking lot. Like on Sunday, don't even let him come in. Make him preach in the parking lot. Alright? Holy Spirit's going to come like you've never seen before. He's going to be like, bam! What a beautiful thing. And so now we continue, and he sits there, and he's like, eat. So he puts some bread and some food, and he eats it. He's like, alright, because you're going to go on a long journey. He's like, okay. And he eats again, and he goes to Mount Horeb. It's called the Mountain of God. And he goes there, and he hides in a cave. The man who did all this, the man who did all these things, and when it gets 450 people, he gives up. He gives up. And he's sitting there lonely, and God's just like, what do you need? He's like, Lord, it's just me. It's just me here, and I don't know what to do. And it continues. He's like, all right, what do you need? He's like, it's just me, God. I'm gonna call Justin back up here. Now turn with me to 1 Kings 19:11 to 14. And he said, "Go out and stand on the mount before the Lord, and behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind tore the mountain and broke it into pieces." Now, can you guys make a strong wind for me? Blow. Man, I should have asked you to brush your teeth, but it's alright. Blow again. And in that great wind, there was nothing. As we continue on, and place the rocks before the Lord, but the Lord is not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake. Can you guys stand up and stomp for me? None of you are really that old, but Brian, do you remember the earthquake that hit Washington when we were like, you were probably 8th grade, I was 10th grade? You know, and this is a true story, I was the only one not to go under my table. I was eating. I was eating. And I thought a bunch of seniors were running to get in the line for food. So I was like trying to eat really fast. Everyone dove under my table and I was like, oh! And when the whole thing was already done, I stood up, walked to another table, went under it, finished my food. That was it. That's all I remember about the earthquake. And in that earthquake, it says we turn to the Word of God. There was nothing in the earthquake. Because that's where we're trying to find God, right? These big things all the time. But no, the Lord's presence came as if He's testing him. Boom, wind, all this stuff being rustled up. You know what the wind represents for you guys being busy all the time, as if that's going to fulfill you. Earthquakes happen. Things that change your lives. You're looking for these big moments and that doesn't happen. What? My people, read the Bible. What comes next?
Fire.
A great fire. We all should participate. Bam! Fire. All over the place. Bam! Fire. But tell me, people, was what he was looking for in the fire? Read the Word. Don't just read the Word. This is why the Word exists. Does he find what he needs in the fire? You're right. But the Lord is not in the fire. And after the fire, the sound of a low whisper. Can you guys whisper for me? You know what's so weird about that? Nobody whispers like that. Why is that the first thing you do? Whisper. I didn't say pee quietly, I said whisper. Right? Hey, what you doing? What you doing? That's whispering. And all these things and all this craziness and all this stuff that's happening, in the whisper, when Elijah heard it, he wrapped his face in his cloak and went out and stood at the entrance of the cave. And behold, there came a voice to him and said, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" And Elijah said, "I have been very jealous for the Lord, the God of hosts, for the people of Israel have forsaken your covenant, throw down your altars and killed your prophets with the sword, and I, even I only am left, and they seek my life to take it away." He's like, okay, I need you to anoint 2 kings. I need you to anoint this dude named Elisha. And he's going to be the next prophet after you. And that's how this story ends. You know what's so powerful about a whisper? You see, I don't think kids know this. Who has ever done drama before? You two. The secret thing about drama, you know what happens? What happens when you forget your lines? Huh? So what happens when you forget your lines? There's this person on the side that tells you the lines. But you know what they don't do? They never whisper it. Because when you whisper, it cuts through everything. They speak it because the crowd can't hear them speaking. Romeo, oh Romeo, you fool. You know, and they hear that part, a little whisper, you fool. That's why when a pastor's sitting there and doing a sermon, he cuts his eye at you, because he can hear the whispers. It's like this penetrating noise. Did you hear about the new Pokemon? You know, he looks at you. You know, and like, he can hear you. There's something about a whisper. And you can hear whispers. You can always hear whispers. Because they're meant to penetrate. Because you look at someone, a whisper, like, it gets people's attention. And see, that's how God likes to talk to you. Because, you know, he doesn't just speak to you because that's just a normal hum of everything. You can't hear God through speaking. Because everyone's speaking to you. Your parents, your family, your friends, background noise, Satan. So God's not going to be like part of the noise. He's not going to be like, yeah, I love you, and all this stuff's happening. But he likes to get quiet. You know why else he likes to whisper? Because he likes to make you lean in. He's just kind of like, hey, yeah. And you're like, what? Hey, what? He likes to whisper. And there's nothing more romantic, right, than when couples like whisper to each other, like a joke only they know. Especially at weddings. Hey, honey. I don't know this, I'm pretending. I don't know. Those of you, like Ryan, you know. It's awesome, right? Just to share something with somebody. Yeah. It's okay, you can be happy. I'm not mad. I'm not! No, I got it, I'm back. Okay, so, this whispering moment, you know? And I always wonder, like, what do they say to each other? Because they're so intimate, they're so close. And I like to imagine this is what people say when they get so close to each other. Hey, honey. Yeah. Yeah. The chicken gave me gas. What? Shh, listen. In that intimate moment, I bet a lot of things happen. You know why you have quiet time? Because you have to learn to hear the whispers of God in the busyness of your day. You know why we do quiet time, even though sometimes that's the one part you're like, yeah. You know how I know? I saw a bunch of those QT things there. And not only that, some of you turn the QT pages into notes. I got one that had QT on it, I was like, who did this? I'll find you. You know? QTs are very important. Because you have to learn to have quiet time with God. Because God wants to speak to you in the whisper. He wants you to lean in. He's like, no, get away from those things. Because if I talk to you here, you know, there's going to be so much noise. I need to tell you something. Come here. Yeah. I just wanted to tell you, just to remind you, I love you. You're so awesome. Of course, you feel like, oh God. You know, like, he's like, yeah, I just wanted you to know that. Go ahead, go. And that's why we have QTs, because you need that moment where God's just like, hey, I love you. Now go face the rest of your day. I don't know, that's how God's with me, because I like sports. Like, yeah. It's in that whisper that you hear the Lord. And as you guys know, this was that big slogan moment that I give you. And this is it. Perfect love casts out all fear. Perfect love casts out all fear. And if people ever ask you this question, just so you know, what is the opposite of love? Fear. Why? Because hate is passionate. You obsess over this thing. Where love is like, oh, I want to make you continue living. Hate's like, you need to die. You know, but you think about it all the time. But you know why fear is the opposite of love? Because love frees you to do more things, but fear cripples you and makes you do nothing. Because you know what you're going to run into after this? Fear. And it happens when you wake up Saturday morning. We all feel it, right? The last day of retreat, you're like, boom. I'm going back home. I wonder if this community is going to like continue to be there. I wonder if I'm going to continue loving God. Yeah. You're going to have moments where you don't. You're going to have moments where it's hard. But perfect love casts out all fear. Perfect love casts out all fear. Because you say it to God. Because yesterday it was all about brokenness, but here it's to enable you, to strengthen you, to do some awesome things. Lord, I don't know if I can do that. And God's like, yeah, you can. With me, you can do anything. And God, He fills you because perfect love casts out all fear. And He gives you strength to speak to one another, to praise, to rise up. You see, God is the one that gives you strength, to give you power, to give you vision, to give you dreams. There's something bigger. That's why I love the fact that you have Pastor Brian, because this man is such a great visionary. He has such great things planned and in store for you. And when you guys walk through discipleship, you're going to see the greatness that God has. That there's more to it than just this. That there's so many more things that God has blessed you and has created you for and has lifted you up. And is going to input in you. That God's going to do amazing things. You know, the second thing that you need to be ready for after these moments and after times like this, that immediately, you know what was his biggest thing? Elijah was alone. So he gave him someone to mentor and disciple. We always look at the Great Commission as like, here is your burden. Like God's last thing when he's flying away. Oh, and one more thing. Go out to the Lord and make disciples. What was that? Like, you heard me, Peter. Like he flies away. No, he's floating away. He's like, go out to the world, make disciples. Every tribe, every nation, every tongue. He flies away. I like to think he flies away really slow. It's not like, whoop, he's like 5 miles an hour, like, see ya. I still see him. Just keep looking. Well, he's coming back. Kidding, guys. Why? You know why? You know what the greatest thing about ministry is? Can I just tell you guys my secret? Why I love ministry? One of them is whenever there's like going away parties, there's always shrimp, and I love shrimp. Number two, there is nothing more awesome than watching people get discipled. Now let me tell you, I have seen miracles, I have seen people get like possessed by demons, I've seen weird things. You know, the craziest thing I said, this guy hit a Coke machine and 2 Coke bottles came out. I was like, whoa, what? Right? And one time, God blessed me because I bought this package of like Sour Patch Kids. I swear to you, there was more than 50% were blue. I was like, oh my gosh, Lord, like it's amazing. No, but I've seen great things. I've seen miracles. I've seen people weep and give their lives to Christ. And I've seen those things and it's awesome. But there is nothing to me that is more beautiful than when someone disciples someone else. There's nothing more awesome than that. That's why we fight for it. That's why we strive for it. Perfect love casts out all fear. You know why I love that line? Because your leaders believe in it. Because they were all afraid to be your teachers one day. I know. I've been in Brian's shoes. Hey, want to join my ministry? The 3 big excuses. I don't have time. Oh, but you're always open on Sundays. We ate every week. I set you up. You know, like I know your schedule. Number 2, like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready. Oh, will you ever know if you're ready? Until you do it. And number 3, what's number 3? I'm not good enough. Last time I checked, Christ said that you're his precious child. Are you gonna refute the Lord Almighty, maker of the galaxies? I mean, that's how I get people to join. I don't know about that. I believe Brian's a little more soft, like, oh, God loves you. Not me. Like, will you refute him? Like, that's the way I roll. And it's cool, like, looking at all of you, and you guys have some cool leaders. And when I look at them, I'm just like, wow, look at them. Like, it's so cheap. You have some really cool leaders. You know, like, look at them. Look at them, seriously, look at them. Who else would give up 5 days of their week to hang out with you and not get paid? Honestly, who would spend 5 days with you and get paid? Right, you know? Your teachers go crazy at school. You think you wait for Friday? They wait for Friday. Why do you think they give you so much homework? Revenge, you know? Like, keeping it real. Keeping it real. But they choose to spend time with you. Because I do want to go into a time of prayer, and we're going to go into a time of prayer. But what you need to know, and if there's any gift I give Brian, is that perfect love casts out all fear. You know why your teachers pray for you every day? So that you would learn to pray every day. They pray for you How many times do you pray for your leaders? Like really lift them up. And one of them's like physically sick today. How many people laid hands on him to be healthy? You know? I regret yesterday because, you know, like we were playing volleyball and like John was really sucking. We should have prayed for him. He really needed Jesus at that moment. Lord, direct his hands because brother doesn't know what he's doing. Photographers in the back, how many times have you prayed for them? Thanks for taking good pictures. Because if this was me, I'd have Kodak. That would be it. But they've been dedicated to the whole time. You know how hard it is to be a part of some great things, but always having to take a step back to like record it all? But he does that out of faithfulness. The guy that sets up all the snacks and does all these things. Did you pray for them? Did they be blessed that someone would serve them when they leave this place? Do you pray for your praise team people? That they'd have energy? Because y'all young, we're old. When I go home and my knees swell because I played with you, and I'm putting ice on them, I'm like, Lord, I'm so old. But because of your prayers, I'm like, yeah, I can continue. Because of the prayers of my leaders and people from my church, I continue. Because God's like, yeah, we're all in this together. We're a community. And that's what we want, that you pray for each other, that you pray for your leaders. And I want that moment to happen. We're going to go into the time of prayer right now. Justin, can you hold this? I want to lead us into some prayer time. I want to change this shirt because I want to pray for some of you. And I want to be like, hey, the Lord has, get away from me! So I do want to pray. But right now, leaders, can you guys stand up? Stand up. Alright, this is what I want you guys to do. Your leaders have been there for you, and the beauty of this retreat is, it's not just today. You've got people that have dedicated a whole year to you, wanting to walk with you, and like, trust me, that's like the greatest thing on earth. Oh, it's disgusting. Oh, sorry, get into spirituality. Alright. But before you bless them, what I need you to bless them with is not just thank you for today. Because you're gonna fill their boxes up. You need to fill their boxes up, alright? These people have done so much for you. I don't want a thank you prayer. What I want is for you guys to grow and to continue growing. You need leaders that keep pushing the envelope of who they are, of their own brokenness and their own stuff that they go through. They need your prayers. Because we are a community. And that's the people we want to raise up. A community of people that pray. And to help them, because they live lives. They go to school and they're trying to balance out things and they're still trying to follow the Lord with all their heart. They need prayer. And there's nothing greater than the prayer of you students, because you keep it real. You know, when my kids pray for me, it's like, God, especially like the girls, God, please be with Pastor James. Give him a wife. He seems really angry. And I'm always like, yeah, I need to repent. Like, and they're like, yeah.